Hello and welcome back to another video about investing, saving for retirement, saving for financial independence. And today we're going to talk about using the 3-bucket method, the bucket system for investing, especially when it comes to saving for financial independence and retirement and planning for a downturn in the market. The market has been amazing this year after a lackluster couple of years, but it won't always last. Markets go up and down. So now is the time to prepare for the inevitable downturn in the market. Now, buckets are a way of grouping assets together based on their purpose or the time horizon. This can be a helpful way of reducing your risk and ensuring you have the right mix of assets to meet your financial goals, and you're not pulling money out of your investments when the market is down. I was introduced to this system when I was a financial planner and helping people protect their assets, build their assets, but also once they're built up to protect them, and also helping them keep money in separate buckets to make it easier to manage. So in this video today, we're going to talk about 2 different methods. One for how to manage your portfolio, your existing assets, and 2, a way to use buckets to manage your expenses. So what are buckets? In investing, buckets are a way to group assets together based on the purpose of the assets, what the money will be spent on, and when you need the money or the time horizon. Do you need it now? Do you need it in the next few months? Or is it something that you don't need for 30 years because you're saving for retirement? For example, you might have a bucket that is solely for your emergency fund, a bucket for your retirement savings, a bucket for your child's education. Those are specific purposes with a time horizon attached to it. So with each bucket, there are 3 things attached to it. There's a purpose, there's a time horizon, and there's a dollar amount, which of course is different for each person, different for each scenario and circumstance. So we're going to talk about 2 buckets, first for investments and then second for expenses. So what's the benefit of using buckets? There are a few benefits to using buckets as an investment strategy. First, it can help you stay disciplined with your investments. When each bucket has a specific purpose, you are less likely to be tempted to take out money, or you won't need to take out money to spend it on other things because it's separated from the other assets for a specific purpose. Second, it can help you reduce your risk. By grouping assets together based on risk, you can create a diversified portfolio, not just by asset class, by stocks or bonds or real estate, but by time horizon and by purpose. This makes you less likely to be affected by market volatility. And I'll go into that in just a second about how that exactly works. And third, it helps you make better investment choices. When you have a clear understanding of your financial goals and the assets you need to achieve them in a time horizon, then it's a lot easier to make good investment decisions because the objectives are clear and the path is clear and you know exactly what you need to do because you know what that money is for. Okay, let's get to the buckets. How do you create these buckets? There are a few different ways to use buckets, but one common approach for investments is to use 3 buckets. So you take your assets, you divide them into 3. Bucket 1 is the bucket that contains your liquid assets, the things, the money that you're going to need in the near term. This is living expenses. It's your emergency fund. It's any upcoming expenses. You might put in your checking account the money you're going to need day to day for groceries, and then in a separate brokerage account in a money market, money that you're going to need for the next 2 to 4 years, your liquid money. This is safe, conservative money that is invested in something like a money market account, a high yield savings account, maybe short-term bonds or CDs, money that is not going to earn you a lot of return, but is not fluctuating. It will hold you over if the market goes down, because when the market goes down, you don't want to be taking money out of your other buckets 2 and 3, where it is invested more in stocks, index funds, long-term investments. You don't want to take money out of your 401k when the market just tanked. That is what bucket number 1 is for. It's the liquid cash that you can access to live on, or if you have an emergency, and that should hold you through 2 to 4 years. So calculate what your living expenses are for 2 to 4 years. And when the market goes down, you take money out of that. The average recession lasts 18 months. So having 2 to 4 years of living expenses will hold you most of the time. So you don't have to take money. You don't have to sell stocks or sell mutual funds when the market is down and take them at a loss or sell them for less than maybe you want to. So that's bucket number one. Bucket number two, as maybe you already guessed, is for the medium term. Bucket number one is short term. Bucket number two is medium term. This could include retirement planning, depending on how old you are, saving for a child's education, or extra money in case a bear market lasts a little bit longer. So this is money that you'll need 5 or more years from now, say 5 to until retirement years. And these assets can be invested in something a little bit more risky with a higher risk return than just putting it into a money market account or a cash fund. This could be put in stocks or bonds, maybe real estate. Those are all good options for a medium term bucket. And the purpose is to survive the prolonged bear market. If the bear market lasts for more than 2 years, then you deplete your bucket number one of liquid assets, then you go to bucket number two, which should have enough in it to last you another 2 to 4 years. So you don't have to pull any money out of bucket number three, which we'll get to right now. So bucket number three. Bucket number three contains assets that you don't need to access for many years, 10 or more years, including the years through retirement, up to and through retirement. This is the bucket that you will draw from during retirement. This could include qualified money, that's the retirement money, your 401k, your IRA, your SEP plan if you're self-employed, or your HSA, your health savings account. This is long-term money. So as such, the investments can be held in something that has a higher risk return because you have plenty of time to recover if the market goes down. So not only can you put it into index funds or ETFs, but individual stocks or bonds or real estate. Real estate generally has a long time horizon, so this is a good bucket for that. Personally, in my long-term horizon, since I'm a little bit on the younger side, I have everything in 100% in ETFs, index funds, and the top cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, because I have a long time horizon for all of those. Of course, that's not financial advice. Do your own thing based on your needs, but that's what I'm doing. So what is the purpose of this? The bucket number three is focused on long-term assets that will appreciate over time, that are tax advantaged generally, like a 401k or an IRA, where you are taxed differently than having money in stocks in a brokerage fund for a short amount of time. These are your long-term assets. So how much should you have in this bucket number three? This is considered your retirement fund or your financial independence fund, where you're using the 4% rule to draw out 4% every year and no more. According to a popular study called the Trinity Study, if you have assets in a portfolio like this and you draw out every year less than 4%, then you won't run out of money for 30 years or possibly more. So this is your retirement or financial independence bucket number three. And it should be the largest bucket. This is the bucket you want to grow as much as possible because it's money that, unlike buckets number 1 and 2, will last 2 to 4 years. Bucket number 3 needs to last 30, 40, 60 years maybe, depending on when you retire and how long you're going to live. This should be the largest bucket. So what do you do with these 3 buckets since they're always changing all the time? Bucket number 3 may be growing over time. Hopefully it's growing. Bucket number 1, you're depleting because you're spending it for emergencies or living expenses. So do you rebalance? Do you refill the buckets? And the answer is yes. And there are a couple of different ways. As you spend down bucket number 1, you can take less than 4% from bucket number 3 if you're retired or near or financially independent. You take less than 4%, you refill buckets number 2 and bucket number 1 as needed. As long as you're not depleting more than 4% of bucket number 3, you refill buckets 1 and 2. If you're not yet retired, or you're financially independent or retired but still working, which a lot of people are, they'll take a part-time job, they'll do some gig work, they'll be a freelancer, then that's the optimal way to refill bucket number 1. If you can keep refilling bucket number 1 with your income, then you don't have to touch bucket number 3, and bucket number 3 can grow and grow until you need that money. So ideally, keep refilling bucket number 1 with your salary, with extra income, with rental income, with whatever you have. But if you have stopped working, then refill bucket number 1 and 2 from the earnings of bucket number 3. Does that make sense? Are you doing something similar or maybe a little bit different? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what some of you do to manage your money, especially those of you who are retired, which I know a lot of you who watch my videos are retired. How do you manage it? Do you do something similar or something completely different? Okay, so now let's talk about the different kind of bucket. That is buckets set aside for expenses rather than investments. Basically, you create a separate bank account or separate brokerage account for each large expense that you're saving for. Kind of like the envelope system, but for large expenses rather than daily expenses. So a vacation is so much better when you pay for it in advance by setting money aside for your special vacation fund and then budgeting every month, putting money into that account. And then when it's time to take your vacation, that's the budget you have for the vacation. It also makes it easier to not overspend for a vacation, which I do, everybody does. But if you have that separate account, you know this is how much I have for a vacation, and you're less tempted to blow it all out and go all out and spend more than maybe you have. Okay, the second example is large purchases that are liabilities like a car, a boat, an SUV, maybe a second home or a cabin. So let's just take the example of a car. The goal for having a car is to have it paid off, not have any loan on it. And once you pay that off, take the money that you were paying toward your car, and instead of paying the loan, pay yourself into a separate account, a separate car account. And use that for two things. One, use that account for any repairs, or if you get flat tires, if you have a flat tire, a lot of cars like an SUV, you have to replace all the tires. And for my car, that costs about $800. So it's nice to have a separate fund just for your car repairs. And then eventually the car you have, even if it's paid off, is going to run down and you're going to need a new car. So making those payments to yourself into a separate account will have that money set aside. And so when your car gets old, breaks down, or you just need a new one, you've got that money already saved up and you won't have to take out a loan for a new car. This ensures that you will forever have a car that's paid off and money set aside for that new car. When the time comes, that money will be there. One big advantage of this is it also helps you avoid spending too much on a car. If you've ever gone into a car lot, the salesperson always asks you how much payment can you afford. Our consumer society doesn't focus on the actual value of the car, the cost of the car rather, but how much can you afford. This is why the average car payment is about $700, because people focus too much on the car payment. If you have money in a bank account ready to go and you can go and buy cash for that car, you're much less likely to spend too much on a car. If you have $10,000 saved up, then that's how much you have to spend on a car. You're less likely to go and buy a $80,000 car if you don't have it saved up. So it helps you maintain discipline, spending the right amount on a car. If you want to save up $80,000 for a car, then go for it. But make sure that it is saved up in a separate account. And having that bucket for the large expense makes it so much easier to be disciplined and spend the right amount on a car, and also not have to stress when your tire blows out or you need a new carburetor or you need an entirely new car. It's right there waiting for you. It's less stress, you don't overspend, and it helps you to refocus on the actual cost of the car and not just the payment. And the same goes for any of the other large purchase, like I said, a boat, an RV, down payment on a second home, etc. So the number of buckets you use for your expenses really depends on how many large purchases you plan, your individual circumstances, your goals. And having each bucket can help you manage risk and ensure that you have the right mix of assets that meet your needs. Assets that are invested in the proper vehicle, like stocks and bonds versus a money market, that is going to help you achieve your goal in the time period that you have. Okay, so I hope this bucket method was helpful. And again, if you use something like it, please comment below and share your experience. And if you haven't already, jump on the Morning Download daily newsletter where I cover the day's news in stocks and the economy with some personal finance, so we can learn gradually every day more about personal finance and managing your money. Get it at morningdownload.com, and the link is in the description, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.